We're going to go ahead and take a look at adding and subtracting rational expressions. But to do that, to add fractions or subtract fractions, you need to have a common denominator. The common denominator is really the least common multiple of the denominators. So we're going to start out by finding least common multiples. To do that, you want to go ahead and factor each expression, list all the factors that occur. Then if you have a choice on exponents, you always take the higher one. So we're going to go ahead and factor this first one. The only thing that factors here is the 3 times 5 for your 15. The variables are already factored. Over here we have 16, which is really a 2 to the 4th. Your variables are already factored. So we're basically just trying to get the numbers in front in a very similar form of the prime factorization like the variables are. And then 20 is a 2 squared and a 5. So your least common multiple, you write down all the different things that occur, which would be a 2, a 3, a 5, an A, a B, and a C. If you have a choice in exponents, you always take the higher exponent. Here, we could either have a 2 squared or 2 to the 4th. You take the higher one. 3 shows up once, so we got to just take whatever exponent it has. 5 to the 1st or 5 to the 1st, so we just take 5 to the 1st. When you look at the a's, you have an a squared or an a cubed, take the higher exponent. When you look at the b's, b to the 1st, b to the 5th, take the higher exponent. Same idea with the c's. Now, this is really then a 16 times 15 or a 240 with your a cubed, b to the 5th, c to the 6th afterwards. So right-hand side over here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start off by factoring. Well, this is a trinomial, so we're going to pull out that greatest common factor first. Then we're going to factor what's left into 2 parentheses, and we get an x minus 2, and an x plus 1. Then over here, we're going to factor this last one. We are going to factor that into an x minus 2 and an x minus 2, which we could write as an x minus 2 all squared. Once again, to find your least common multiple, you write down all the different things that show up, which would be an x, it would be an x minus 2, and it would be an x plus 1. Remember, if you have a choice in exponents, and we have a choice in exponents with the x minus 2's, we could either choose the first or to the second. We always want the higher exponent, and that's your least common multiple. So if we want to go ahead and add these fractions together without a calculator, the first thing you need to do is to find that least common multiple. So we're going to factor the bottom. 9 becomes 3 squared, 15, a 3 times 5. Now we want to find the least common multiple of the denominators, which is really your least common denominator. So you write down all the different things that occur, which are just a 3 and a 5, but you have a choice on that exponent of 3, so you're going to take the higher one and go 3 squared. So 3 squared times 5 is your common denominator. So we have our first fraction. To get that common denominator, we need to have a 5 hanging out on the bottom with that 3 squared. So we'll multiply the bottom by 5. So we'll multiply the top by 5. So we're really multiplying by a special form of 1, so it doesn't change the value. Over here, that's our second fraction. We need another 3 hanging out on the bottom, so we can get 3 squared. Multiply the bottom by 3, so we're going to multiply the top by 3. So that really gives us then a 10 plus a 12 over our common denominator, which in this case we could add that together on top, get 22 over that common denominator.